What's up, everybody? It's Polish Pete. I'm here in our studio in Golden Valley, Minnesota at Omnia Fishing. And as promised, we're back with some more content around our brand new technique we've added to our site called the mid-stroll / hover strolling technique, which is basically a fancy way of saying forward-facing sonar pinging a minnow. That's what at least a lot of the tournament anglers have coined it. This is an extremely popular technique that is dominating in a lot of tournaments around the country. It is an extremely effective way to catch fish. It is the newest technique to date that I can think of that we've added to our site. Now, obviously, in the world of fishing, there's a whole bunch of techniques that we don't even have listed on there. They're much smaller and get deployed for certain species or certain times of year or certain fisheries. But our techniques on our pages are pretty broad ones that can get used all over the country, and we are assorted for, we have all the tackle for. We haven't added one in a long time, and this mid / hover strolling technique is one that had to be added because it is what we're doing the volume of our bait sales in. It hasn't affected the durables side, which what we might mean by when we say durables, that means rods and reels. It hasn't affected that side of our business as much as it has definitely affected the consumables, which are baits that people buy in the terminal tackle, and it has affected our electronic sales a lot. We're selling a lot more, as you can imagine, forward-facing sonar units, transducers, and things like that, and mounts for that. And we're selling a lot of these minnows and the terminal that go in conjunction with that for that mid-strolling, hover strolling technique. This video is basically just to point out to you the baits that are shining for that right now and explaining to you kind of where things have fallen so far. And what we're seeing is a fluke minnow or a minnow style bait. Now, when people have been saying fluke style bait, it oversimplifies it a bit too much, right? This scented jerk shad here does look a little bit more like a zoom fluke, but there is some characteristics that you're looking for out of them, and that is their ability to roll. And this is the most popular one by far for us so far, to the point where we order in large quantities and they go as fast as they show up, and that is the Depths Sakamoto shad. So if you were to say, who's the Senko of all the Senkos? It's the Yamamoto Senko Green Pumpkin. Who's got the best fish rolling minnow or hover strolling minnow out there? Right now, the king of the hill is the Sakamoto shad, as far as sales go anyway. Very dramatic rolling action to it. You see right here, I've got a loop knot tied because in the tank, we have seen a big difference between a loop knot or just tying directly to a ball head jig, and you'll get more of a rolling action out of the minnow. The Sakamoto shad comes in several different sizes. I kind of locked it up here with the smaller ones like this scented jerk shad here. And you're seeing, obviously, our friend Gussie win a Bassmaster Classic with this bait. Wasn't necessarily doing that hover strolling technique, close to it though. Demiki rigging can be demiki rigging straight below the boat, like Gussie's deployed it, or way out in front of yourself. That's what mid-strolling or hover strolling is. It's technically trying to demiki rig a bait, but out at the end of a cast, which is hard to do because the bait wants to sink, obviously. So there's new tackle being developed all the time to make this easier. What I showed you there with those first two minnows with the scented jerk shad and the Sakamoto shad, I would say these are the two most popular for us right now. And what would be right there with them in sales would be this guy right here, which you've seen win just about 100 tournaments already so far, it seems like. That's the Crush City Freeloader. But we haven't got enough of these every time we've sold them out. So kudos to the folks over at Crush City and our buddies at Rapala that developed this bait. It is winning tournaments, and I guarantee you the sales will be right there with Sakamoto shad or scented jerk shad if we were able to get them in enough volume. These things are flying. If you see them somewhere, I know a lot of box stores have them. Us independents haven't been able to keep them in stock, but if you see them in a box store, I don't blame you. Buy them. You should try these things. They've been really good. Hopefully we get more soon. Next up is like this Sonar minnow from Yum. We played with this. This to me would be your best kind of bang for your buck. It's really inexpensive and they do work. They come in a bunch of different sizes as well. But lastly, along with that Sakamoto shad that I had mentioned that comes in multiple sizes, I've had the best success, and I know a lot of tournament anglers have as well, fishing these minnows in like the 6, 7, and even all the way up to 8-inch sizes. So you'd have to ask yourself then, what type of terminal tackle are you using to combine these with? Just to point out, this one here happens to be the Raid fish roller. We've sold a bunch of these already. This one's pretty slick too. This one in the tank looked really cool. This is the Armor Shad in a 7-inch version. And I know that looks big kind of right here right now, but think about this. This is not that big of a meal for even a 2-pound bass. And I know that firsthand because I've caught a lot of 2-pound bass doing this technique already. 7-inch minnows, not too big. So the terminal that goes in conjunction with these. If you see this big old hook in this Sakamata shad, that's the Horizon head and the LG that you guys have heard me probably talk about a ton if you're Omnia customers. But if you're not familiar, these are EWG hooks and a ball head jig, still with that 90-degree line tie. So it's perfect for trying to keep the bait vertical, or horizontal, I should say, in the water column. But it's got a bigger hook, so that if you are fishing around heavy cover or you're fishing for just bigger fish in general, you have more muscle, more hook there to fight a fish and hook a fish farther away and keep them out of the cover and put more pressure on them. Also, if you're just fishing a larger minnow, you get a lot more hook further back in the bait than you would if you just use a little round bend like you've got in this range roller here. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this Smeltonator and the Owner range roller and also this Core Tackle hover rig is because what's weird is we're selling a lot of the bigger minnows, but we're selling most of the terminal we're selling is this smaller, more finessey jig heads, which leads me to believe that people are finding a lot more confidence doing this technique with the smaller size minnows, or even with a big minnow with a more finessey, smaller head in it. If you're not familiar with the hover rig, there's tons of good content out there. Check out Matt Steffen's YouTube page. It's incredibly good content on there about how to rig this thing and how to fish it. But this is another way to keep that bait even looking more natural without that ball head at the end of the nose. This is internally weighted inside the bait, and it's an easy way to keep it just above those fish's head on your forward-facing sonar. The range roller's got a great keeper on it. I want to point that out, that if you're fishing with the Elastec style plastics or salty plastics, the keeper is really slick. It works with both very, very well, and this has been an extremely popular one for the hook. And you have to point out the old Smeltonator, and that's because this one's probably won the most money of all these so far that I'm aware of. This one's won a classic and another tournament that I know of for sure. I know it's taken down some Sturgeon Bay Opens and some other stuff too. This is a really, really popular swim bait head / Demiki style head that does work for this technique as well. This stuff has been the most popular stuff so far. This is an evolving technique that is getting more and more popular as the weeks go by, and we're seeing people get better and better at it. So stay tuned for more baits that are coming in, but if you're getting into this new technique of hover / mid strolling, check out all this stuff. Load this stuff up in your cart, and I promise you, you'll see some success. This stuff is working right now, and it's catching them.